So I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of how I hate reporting. It's like my least favorite thing to do, and how I've kind of hacked to work around that. So it's got a little prop here. So a couple of years ago, I convinced Google to give me a bunch of money to make this. And it's essentially a mouse that uses your mouth. So it's meant for people like quadriplegic or ALS. Except when I asked Google for this money to do it, I never thought they'd give me the money, and then when they did, I had no idea what I was doing. And then I had to report to them about what I was doing. So by the time I actually got the money and had something like this that worked, it took me a good year and a half. But because like I got this Google money and a lot of attention, it's like, what the hell am I going to report on? Because I have nothing to give anybody. I had all this interest and stuff. So I'm like, I'll write a newsletter. That's nice and easy. So we made this pretty rigorous, and you can go to our website, and that's like super small. I think someone's going to show me how to better visualize data sooner rather than later. But it wasn't huge at first. Like I think, I kind of started with the people that I met, put them on there, and slowly grew it over time. But what we did was we got really rigorous about like, what did we do this week on it? Where were we on our work in progress? And like one was like, I hired smarter young engineer people fresh out of university. Or, this is the problem we're trying to solve. And I was really honest with things that worked or didn't work. And what it did was allow me to kind of capture these people that had this initial interest and all this Google Press, and just kind of keep like the heart beating on them until like I was actually ready to give them something down the road. So one of the ones that was really, really popular was the update, and we posted it on our website. Most people read it through the newsletter. But I called it Joystick Suck. And it was actually trying to get a joystick that worked for this. So we started, the one on the left is like your standard video game PlayStation joystick. And it's like, it's cheap, it's easy, you can source it anywhere. Like, that's our solution. But by the time you built like a sip and puff switch and a saliva guard, it took a wide range of motion for someone to use. And went to user testing. One of the people that had like a high level neck injury actually passed out from the pain caused. Like, that is not going to work at all. So we tried these different sort of prototypes and trying to like offset the throw on it or spring-based systems. And it took us a good while to the one to the right. So that became like a series of like 4 blog posts for me. It's not like my project is failing. Here are the lessons we are learning and trying as we went along. So when it came time to write this, final report or for like the first, technical development part to Google, it wasn't like, oh man, how do I explain that like I've hired engineers who had problems? It's just like, take this little newsletter piece and copy and paste little chunks of it over. So this big report that seemed like daunting and overwhelming, it's like, just kind of went through these newsletters and pulled little pictures here and pieces there, and actually broke it down and made it really easy. Then as the project sort of progressed and we started doing these events where I'm bringing, it's similar to a room like this, people come in, I give them a soldering iron, wiring snips and the kit, and they build it. They make it, we take pictures, we go up on social media, but we did a good job of like, let's curate these things in an area, put out the weekly newsletter. And then you get like these short little testimonials, which look great in reports, right? Here's a kid that never soldered before, like had a good day at school and stuff. Similarly, we had this sort of group events where people come together, right? So at the end, it's like, oh, we had this event or whatever, but kind of pulling the pieces together. So like I'm way shorter than Maya. But the things that like sort of work for me in terms of doing these big awful reports that I hate was being really rigorous, having sort of a weekly sort of update. It's also like very open and transparent with people about what we're doing, and that became the content for these bigger reports that I needed to do. It was kind of broken up into chunks and pieces, and that really like the work that your columns people are doing, like with here's our success stories or pieces. What I started to give them was like, here are, I didn't tell them this, but like here are things I have to answer in my report. So like, what I like a story on? I like a story on a small business that hires somebody, but from a small business piece. And then when we're going out doing these presentations and report to like the small business councils, give us some money, it's like I have that story there. So I basically give the communications team my reporting responsibilities, and they do all the hard work for me, pass it along. And then the other key part was, and Mike kind of touched on this, but I was more blamed with this, like I blatantly shared my mistakes and problems we had in development. And that was easier for me because of the maker sort of engineering sort of project, but I said like, we're having problems, we're having difficulties. And I would sometimes have people that would like get the newsletter right back as like, well, have you tried the, the HUSA board or the 32U64 protocol? And I'm like, I don't know what that means, but let me connect you to the engineers along the way. So in me sharing my difficulties, people shared solutions and helped me sort of solve that along the way. And it wasn't because I saved this annual report. I was just very open and transparent on my feelings and trials and tribulations I went through, which actually helped me get to my sort of outcomes. That's it. I'm short and sweet. Do your work along the year. It makes your life easier at the end. Cheers.